With Dragon's Dogma 2 just around the corner, here's a list of the most important information you may have missed. We're covering everything from races and classes to map size, and even newly released information about the start of the game that you may not have heard yet. The newest piece of information comes from the game's director, who has confirmed that you don't need to play Dragon's Dogma 1 in order to understand the story of Dragon's Dogma 2. As for how this has been made possible, long story short, the game starts off with a main character who has lost their memory. And yes, although amnesia may not be the most original of storytelling tropes, it certainly seems like this is a handy tool to rely on when creating a sequel to a cult classic that not many people may have played. Using this method, many of the characters around you who you meet early on in your journey will explain certain story and plot points to you to get you up to speed. So even if this is your first time playing a Dragon's Dogma game, you can safely dive straight in. And perhaps as importantly, even though the game will use many of the same systems as the original Dragon's Dogma, not only have they been enhanced and proved for modern gaming, which I'll talk about later on in the video, but also all of the game's mechanics, most notably the AI pawns that accompany you on your journey, will once again be fully explained and taught to you throughout your adventure. Very quickly before we move on to the more juicy information, most people probably already know this, but just in case you didn't, the game is set to release on March 22nd, and it will be available on PS5, Xbox Series S and X, and Steam on the PC. Please do note though that it won't be available on the Xbox Game Pass at launch, however it may be at a later date. Another thing a lot of people are probably very excited to hear is the map size. Thanks to a select few people on the internet that love delving into this kind of thing, it has been estimated that Dragon's Dogma 1 was somewhere between a third to a half of the size of Skyrim. And the game's developers have already confirmed that Dragon's Dogma 2 will be roughly 4 times bigger than Dragon's Dogma 1, which would place this at more than twice the size of Skyrim. And in people's estimations, this wasn't even including caves and dungeons, of which there are a lot of in Dragon's Dogma. So this is going to be a big game. Now let's talk about why that could be a good thing and a bad thing. First of all, when you think of big game maps, sometimes you might be worried that there's a lot of open, empty space and a lot of needless walking around just to make the game feel bigger and to artificially increase the gameplay time. However, from what we have seen so far of Dragon's Dogma 2, and based on my own time with the original game, I think it's very safe to assume that the game world will be very rich and plentiful, and every corner will be densely packed with enemies and activities to make the world feel more full and more alive. Also, of course, including many dungeons and caves that I cannot wait to explore. However, now to talk about the main con. A subset of people nowadays have been actually addressing the fact that some games, especially single-player RPGs, may actually be getting too big. Time is the one thing that we can't just go out and buy more of. So games that are becoming longer and longer and taking 100 plus hours for the initial playthrough aren't necessarily what gamers want. I personally am in the minority, so therefore I can spend countless hours every single day playing video games, so I don't mind how long they are. So for me, this information isn't a pro or a con, it's just an interesting fact. But that is the main reason that this could be good, and the main reason this could be bad. Take from that information what you will, and you can use that to inform your decision as to whether you would like to purchase Dragon's Dogma 2 for yourself. Now let's get into some of the more juicy stuff and talk about the gameplay mechanics, the classes and the races that have been revealed so far. Now let me tell you about pawns and what pawns actually are, before I then tell you the exciting new information for pawns specifically in Dragon's Dogma 2. Pawns at the most basic level are your AI companions. They, along with your main player character, your Arisen, make up your party. From a lore perspective, other than the scar, pawns look physically human, the only differences being that they neither age nor truly die, and they lack any sort of real emotion or willpower. They are denizens of the Rift, which serves as a boundary point between different player worlds. It's theorized that only Arisen can create pawns, as every player character gets a main pawn of their own to share. And as mentioned, pawns lack the one thing an Arisen has: a strong will. And it is using your Arisen's strong will that allows you to call forth and use these pawns and therefore create your party. Now you know what they are, let's talk about how they work in Dragon's Dogma 2. Now we hear the term AI used in gaming a lot. However, when talking about the Pawns AI in Dragon's Dogma 2, the game's developers mean this on a much more advanced level. Based on some of the gameplay demonstrations we have seen so far, they have already explained to us how Dragon's Dogma 2 uses an evolving AI system. Your pawns and the enemies you fight will all learn from your playstyle, with your pawns learning how to protect your weaknesses and play to your strengths, and your enemies learning to exploit them. This is also probably the most advanced combat system we have ever seen, with both you and your pawns being able to physically interact with different parts of enemies. And no, I'm not just talking about something like the VATS system from Fallout. If you strike a large enemy in the ankle, it will keel over. Your pawns will recognize this and will rush to jump on its back and further disable it. Just like you can interact with your environment, you can interact with your enemies. And situations, scenarios, encounters like this will be limitless in this game. With this new advanced AI that your pawns can use, no two fights should be the same, and I am insanely excited for the combat in this game. Okay, enough swooning over how excited I am for the AI. Now let's talk about the classes that have so far been confirmed for the game. 9 different classes, or vocations as the game calls them, have so far been announced, with the Trickster, which was announced a while ago, now receiving its very own breakdown videos, so you can take an in-depth look at some of the specifics behind the Trickster. This is an Arisen exclusive vocation, meaning your pawns will not be able to wield it, and it's mostly passive because their weapon of choice, the ceremonial censer, barely deals any damage. Instead of hurting your enemies, it creates puffs of smoke that make them mad at you and draw aggro towards you. This vocation is all about conjuring, so whilst you have the enemy's aggro, you can do things like create illusionary clones of yourself which will draw the enemy's attention. You can even create illusionary walls and floors. There's many ways in combat which you can both support your allies and hinder your enemies by tricking them, as the name implies. And whilst we're on the topic of vocations, the others that have been announced so far are the 4 basic vocations: Archer, Thief, Mage and Fighter. And for the advanced vocations, along with the Trickster, we have the Sorcerer, the Mystic Spearhand, the Warrior and the Magitech Archer. As for the races that you will encounter and you can play as, we have the Humans and the Elves from Dragon's Dogma 1, and now also the Batal, the Beastren nation. So far, only humans have been confirmed as playable for the Arisen, the main pawn, and the other pawns. However, I truly believe that all 3 races will be choosable during character creation. So far, it is unknown if elves can be chosen for the Arisen and the main pawn. However, it has been confirmed that elves can be other pawns. And this is similar for the Batal. It has been confirmed that you can use a Batal as your main pawn and your other pawns. However, it's still unknown whether the Arisen can be a Batal. I personally believe all 3 races will be selectable in all scenarios to give you the greatest amount of variety and choice throughout your playthrough. After all, with the never-ending choices and possibilities in this game, the developers want to give you as much freedom as possible to make sure the game stays endlessly replayable. And the last thing I wanted to share with you, the developers have also confirmed that there will be a heck of a lot of hidden secrets, side areas, hidden bosses, and side quests. The amount of optional exploration in this game for completionists is off the charts. And during the same interview when Itsuna mentioned about the story at the start of the game, he also mentioned that his personal favourite boss probably won't even be discovered by the majority of players during their first playthrough due to how hidden it is. And I don't know about you, but I love secrets in my games. I am so excited for all of these extra exploration activities. I do not like to just be able to go from A to B to C, game over. I want all of this freedom and exploration without the hand-holding, so I can go and explore, reveal all these hidden secrets, and feel like I am truly completing the game rather than just playing it. So with all of this new information at your disposal, how excited are you for Dragon's Dogma 2? Do you think you'll be picking it up? If not, why not? Genuinely curious. But either way, I hope this video helped. And of course, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.